Every piece of media has a beginning and an ending, an opening and a conclusion, a start and a finish. Another thing we must thoroughly keep in mind is that the quality of a piece of media should not be defined by how it starts, nor by how it ends, but about what happens in between. Of course, a rough start can sour an experience early and make it more difficult to immerse ourselves into the experience ahead. And also, of course, a rough ending can sour the final taste we have of said media, making it so we might forget some of the good stuff we found along the way. It's about the journey, kids. What we experience between point A and point B that should truly define the quality of a piece of media. How we felt while experiencing that work should be what we give the most consideration, not just our first impression or our last one. Unfortunately, today's game starts out bad, ends bad, and as for the middle, well, we'll get to the middle. I've rescheduled this video 2 or 3 times now. Originally, I was going to make my video on Rage the finale of Season 2, but then I realized you kids were really interested in my thoughts on the Quake series, so I switched things around and covered Quake 3, which led to the decision to cover Quake 4 right after, and once I had, I thought, you know, Rage can wait a bit. I've got a project in the background that I'm casually working towards that will cover the history of the first-person shooter genre, from Wolfenstein 3D to Halo Infinite, so I figured I would get to Rage when I got to Rage. Of course, over my break, I played enough Quake Champions that I decided to make a video on that game. I became enraged, you see what I did there, and figured that we had to stop, drop, and roll right into Rage, just because bashing Tom Willits waits for no man. But that meant actually playing Rage, which I have in the past, but not for the better part of the last decade. And it also meant doing some research on the development of the game. There's surprisingly little documentation on the development of Rage that I can find, and I say surprising because most of the games I cover on this show that have any amount of history usually have a detailed Wikipedia page as well as a dedicated fan wiki that lists announcements, history, tiny little infights between developers, stuff like that, you know? But Rage's Wikipedia page is drier than the wasteland the game is set in. The fan wiki is almost as dry, with scarce more details to read through. Clicking through annotations to read articles that are referenced in the various wikis are also super dry, oftentimes being interviews with Tom Willits, who served as the game's director, full of self-flating as he talks about how great the game is going to be, and of course they didn't steal any ideas from Borderlands or Fallout 3. How could they? They'd been working on Rage since well before those games came out. Bullshit! And honestly, it's all just a bunch of empty air as far as the actual development of the game. If anything, the most interesting tidbit I found was that Rage was featured in not 1, but 2 episodes of Breaking Bad before the game was released. Id created custom assets for the game and gave the producers pre-recorded footage for them to edit in as necessary. And in turn, Id then placed a bunch of Breaking Bad references throughout Rage. I've never seen Breaking Bad, so whatever those Easter eggs were, I didn't catch them. However, there was also a commercial for Rage which featured Blake Griffin performing increasingly dangerous stunts as a way to impress his way into appearing in Rage, including dunking over a live tiger. Apparently, Blake Griffin is a serious id Software fanboy. And this commercial is referenced in the fucking game when you find a Blake Griffin bobblehead in Subway Town. Pick it up and you hear a,
"Now, show me what you can do."
Tiger's roar. And the description of the item makes sure you remember the fact that Blake Griffin really wanted to be in Rage. If you think that's all really weirdly meta, then hang on a second here, because it really feels like id Software is genuinely sucking their own dick throughout a lot of this game. We've got a Doom bobblehead within the first 5 minutes of the game, a Doom mug on the mayor's desk. The id Software logo can be put on the side of your racing buggy. Someone is reading that one Doom comic with the huge guts and rip and tear meme in it. There's a sign advertising Rage 2 and Doom 5, which, weirdly enough, Rage 2 and Doom Eternal would end up releasing within a year of each other, so that one's kind of oddly prophetic. And in the single most strangely meta and self-inflating joke I've ever seen in a video game ever, the id Software logos show up in the background of the Mutant Bash TV show. Yeah, the same logos that you see every single time you boot up the game, right there, on a television in the far-flung future, just on a loop. What the fuck? Look, I know, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. This section is supposed to begin at the beginning, but I'm trying to prepare you a little for what's coming, kids. This is a very, very strange game that is all over the place, and at times almost plays more like a parody of a game than it does a straightforward shooter, even while it plays like a deadly serious straightforward shooter. I wasn't prepared. When I first played this a decade ago on my PS3, something I did because I didn't have a decent desktop at the time, I walked in blind thinking this was going to be the next great id IP, the third in a trilogy of great shooter franchises: Doom, Quake, rage. By the time I got to the end of it, I was confused and dissatisfied, even though I wasn't entirely sure why. I didn't play the game again, even though I remembered that I enjoyed the middle portion of the game, despite the end being very rushed and confusing. And now here I am, 10 years later, on a high-end rig that can and will handle everything this game has to throw at me, struggling to truly encapsulate everything I've just seen. So let's roll the opening footage and get down to brass tacks. We start with an ominous cinematic of a massive asteroid on collision course with the planet Earth, coupled with a very serious and genuinely haunting piano tune. It plows through Saturn's rings, takes out a chunk of the moon, and then slams right into Earth in the kind of way that Michael Bay instantly felt envious of. Mixed with all of this is footage of people being placed into cryogenic sleep inside underground bunkers called arcs, which burrow underground after everyone is asleep so they can escape the wave of destruction and wake up sometime in the future when the Earth is habitable again. Each arc survivor has their bloodstream filled, replaced? It's not 100% clear, but I think their bloodstream is being replaced with something called nanotrites that make them able to heal faster and regulate their bodies better in order to survive whatever they wake up to find. Flash forward to our main character, who is nameless for now, but we'll get to that. Flash forward to our main character waking up in a damaged arc. Everyone else in the cryopod's very much dead. We walk outside to get ambushed by wasteland bandits, who in turn get ambushed by John Goodman. Yes indeed, kids, you know it's gonna be a weird one when the first person you meet in a video game is voiced by John Goodman. Goodman's character's name is Dan Hagar, a settler on the outskirts of the wasteland who's just trying to mind his own business, but he happened to see you emerge from the Ark, decided to rescue you, because otherwise some dystopian fascist bastards called the Authority would find you, and that would be bad for reasons not stated, but apparently obvious. And now those awful bandit people are going to put two and two together and realize that Hagar killed their boys, rescuing your ass. So since he put his ass on the line to rescue you, he immediately puts a gun in your hand and asks you to go kill the rest of those bandits in their hideout. What the fuck? I have been awake for all of 5 minutes, sir, and I don't know anything about anything in this wild hellhole out here other than the fact that you told me you're good people and the other people are bad people, and that's all I have to go on. Could you maybe just give me a sandwich or something before you put me on a four-wheeler and send me out to murder people? Like, I don't even know where anything fucking is around here. The game's whole MO is like this. You'll meet someone, they'll immediately ask you to go do something life-threatening just to prove that you're chill, which of course leads to needing to do something else to prove that you're chill, and you're just supposed to kind of go along with all of it. And also, why are people just asking the main character to go roll out and start shooting people off the jump? Who are we playing as? He doesn't talk. There's no indication of what he used to do before being frozen. He's just a silent protagonist. And id has had silent protags before, but come on, kids. They at least gave us an idea of who those characters were. Doom Guy was a Marine. Ranger was a goddamn Ranger. Matthew Kane was clearly a Marine. But our unnamed silent protagonist in Rage is an absolute nobody. Just a dude filled with nanotraits, which, as Hagar says, makes Ark survivors, quote, something special. So fine, I guess. This in turn gives us a quick tutorial for all the things we'll be experiencing throughout the game. Driving across the wasteland in a variety of vehicles, navigating a weapon and inventory system, walking, running, shooting, taking damage and waiting for your health to regenerate thanks to those nifty nanotrites. After getting captured by the bandits and stabbed to death, we also get a tutorial on Rage's interesting second chance system, the defibrillator. All Ark survivors are outfitted with a defibrillator in their chest just in case the nanotrites aren't enough to keep them alive. You take enough damage, you go through a quick time event where you press the action button to shock your heart back to beating, and depending on how you time it, you'll not only gain more health back, but the shock will be so powerful it'll zap nearby enemies, and either stun them so you can finish them off, or outright kill them. As we get deeper into the game, we're slowly given more and more cool shit to play with in our inventory. Each weapon you pick up can use one of up to 4 different ammo types, and each ammo type will have different beneficial effects on different enemy types. Specific inventory items can be bound to one of the 4 slots for quick use, including bandages, which will refill your health if you're in a sticky situation. Among those quick use items are grenades, turrets, and the single best item in the whole goddamn game, the wing stick. Wing sticks are deadly boomerangs with smart targeting computers, so you can toss them and they'll mostly home in on whatever you're looking at. Armored enemies won't be too bothered by them, but a wing stick can take out a helmet and open them up for headshots. Anyone not armored will likely go down in one hit, and you'll move on to whoever else is in your line of fire. Wing sticks can also break really easily, so you'll go through quite a few of them depending on your aim. And at one point deep in the game, you'll get advanced wing sticks, which can bounce between 2 or 3 enemies while on their path. Strategizing how to use these and when to couple them with your firearms is absolutely key to survival. Inventory items can be bought at stores, found throughout the environments, but they can also be crafted if you know how to do it. Rage has a super simple crafting system. Basically, look for all the garbage and pieces of broken items lying around the environment as you run through it. Then purchase a recipe from a store for something you want to be able to craft, and the menu will tell you if you have enough stuff to make what you need. Super simple, easy, and chill. You'll find recipes for bandages, exploding RC cars, different ammo types, even permanent health boosts if you crawl through the wasteland and explore enough. Of course, with that in mind, the game also introduces us to the bane of my fucking existence playing this thing: short, useless side quests. Getting wing sticks involves talking to one of Hagar's people, a woman named Lusum, which has got to be up there with one of the most unfortunate names for anyone ever. And she tells us she'll let the shopkeep know it's safe to sell us wing sticks if we can prove we can use them well. So toss a few wing sticks around in the easiest shooting gallery ever, and then, boom, we can buy wing sticks. That only took all of 5 minutes, if that, and is a hell of a requirement for being able to use an item that you can just figure out on your own with a little experimentation, but okay. Rage is a game full of arbitrary side quests that literally are nothing more than a 5-minute drive to go talk to one person to activate one thing, and then you have to drive another 5 minutes to get back. Anyways, after we go take out those bandits that Hagar sent us to kill after only being out of cryo for 10 minutes, we find out that other bandits came through and wrecked Hagar's shit while we were gone. So we're off on a series of side quests to gather medical supplies, find a missing outrigger worker, and fix a radio tower. One leads to the other, leads to the other. Simple tasks all kind of stack up in this game and lead you towards a single destination where you'll have 3 things to find and or do. At this point in the game, you'll have noticed by now that Rage is simultaneously a gorgeous and also a brutally ugly game. Allow me to elaborate on that. See, Rage uses mega textures, which are, as I kind of follow it, the use of mega huge texture files, like 32,000 by 32,000, to cover entire landscapes and paint objects and environments with highly detailed and unique textures. But Rage, which admittedly looks absolutely stunning from a distance, has huge issues with texture pop-in and up-close blurry images. John Carmack had a brilliant idea, but somewhere in the execution of it, possibly in the attempts to get the game to run smoothly across current-gen desktops and consoles, he ran into issues with the optimization. So you'll get landscapes and environments that look like this, but then you'll also get up close to objects that look like this. Of course, there are some modern workarounds on the internet through fan patches and config files, which I'm running with in my gameplay here, and I experienced very minor texture pop-in during my playthrough, but without it, it's a mess. A giant, hairy, terrifying mess that back in the day was even worse. Okay, so we're still on a mission to go help people do things, and before we ran into the Ghost Clan bandits. Now we're up against the Wasted bandits, who are all British for some reason.
I'm gasping for a fag here.
Excuse me, what?
I'm gasping for a fag here.
Excuse me, sir, but what are you?
No, a fag's a cigarette, remember?
You're a cigarette.
All jokes aside, that's the kind of writing that you can't get away with anymore, especially since that line feels entirely like it was put there on purpose just to see if they could get away with it. The Wasted Clan being entirely British highlights a lack of creativity here within the game, but for some reason, rather than giving each bandit clan a unique identity within the Wastelands, Willits and writer Matthew J. Costello chose to just make some of them obviously not American for some reason. Considering the conflagration of American accents throughout most of the game, it seems pretty clear that we're on American soil. So to have a couple of gangs, and I do mean entire gangs of many human beings, all very clearly from some other country is weird and tropey. Anyways, we check off our objectives, head back, and are rewarded with baby. Now, she looks kind of boring, but don't let looks fool you. This is a 100% red-blooded shotgun that rips, tears, and aims to kick some ass. Admittedly, it took me some time to get used to using it, especially using iron sights. Sometimes using iron sights with this beauty is the way to go, but I found the right rhythm was to get up close and personal, keep that little dot in the middle of that big wide reticle trained onto my target, and 1 or 2 buck shots on hip fire will take down just about anyone or anything that comes at you. This shotgun has the best ammo types out of all the weapons and stays relevant all the way to the end game. It is just Okay, so we've just about wrapped up all the introductory content the game has to throw at us. So while we're in this part of it, we should talk about enemy AI and their animations. First off, fuck every single bandit and mutant and soldier. All of them can fuck right off. I hate the way they move, I hate how they jump and duck and dodge because it's so uncanny and realistic and so fucking good. A lot of time and effort went into the animations and reactions and AI for the enemies. Each one feels like a wholly unique character set that reacts to gunfire or melee in different and appropriate ways. Sometimes you'll shoot someone and they'll stop in their tracks from the force of the buckshot before slowly falling over backwards. Sometimes they'll straight up ragdoll and crumple to the ground. Sometimes their heads will evaporate. Sometimes they'll lose limbs. It's wild and so satisfying satisfying to watch enemies topple in front of you that, on occasion, I just kept pumping rounds into their bodies even after I knew they were dead. And you know why I did that? Because the crafty AI means that every single last one of every enemy you come across will take cover, or rush you, or blind fire from cover, or sometimes fall over after taking gunfire and then sit up and fire back at you. I'm not going to be able to do justice to the realistic animations and ways the enemies very, very realistically try to flank and outwit your aim just with words alone. I hated getting into firefights with certain bandits because I knew they would try to outwit me, or they would be so armored up that I would have to think on the fly about how to chip away at them, using grenades and wing sticks before finally being able to unload an entire clip into their fucking torsos, because it really just felt good to have the last fucking laugh. Rage wholly succeeds in at least one thing. The enemies are frighteningly realistic and terrifying in combat, and in one circumstance, one of the most tense encounters I've ever personally gone through in a first-person shooter. Alright, so Hagar says he'll give me a buggy if I go help the mechanic in his settlement. The mechanic says he'll fix up the buggy if I go get the parts from the outriggers. The outriggers say they don't have the parts, but I can get them if I go search the wasted garage. Quality storytelling, kids. One quest through the wasted garage and one bullshit boss fight later, I'm back at the Hagar settlement, where I finally get the buggy, but Dan Hagar tells me I gotta go stick some dynamite to a barricade that's blocking road access to the nearby town of Wellspring, which means the settlers can't get supplies back and forth until I go clear that. I get a sniper rifle, I drive up to the blockade, I immediately get blown up. Okay, my bad. I reload and snipe the bastards, I drop the dynamite and clear the blockade, I go see Hagar, and he asks me to head out to the town of Wellspring and let the mayor know that the bandits are causing trouble and to bring back some supplies. Of course, I go to leave, but the mechanic has to introduce us to racing around the wasteland. It's a neat little time trial course that'll give us a bonus boost upgrade for the buggy, which, you know what, we've barely scratched the surface of this game. We'll get into racing and time trials later, because there'll be time for that later. There's going to be a lot of time for that later, because we are going to be doing a lot of that later. Christ. And now that we've gotten most of the introductions to all of the gameplay aspects of Rage, this deposits us into what is the second hub town in the game, the one that really opens up the world, and the one where we will be spending the bulk of the game, Wellspring. Okay, there is so much we're about to get into. I'm going to try and break Wellspring down as efficiently as possible so we can move onwards into the real meat, because life in Wellspring is varied enough that you could literally get lost here for a while, which wouldn't make for a very interesting video, but it might make for some interesting gameplay. Oh fuck, who am I kidding? It really won't. Okay, so in Wellspring there are essentially 3 people you'll get quests from. The mayor, the sheriff, and one other person who I'm not going to spoil right now. You can buy supplies for yourself and your car, as well as upgrades that'll make your vehicle beefier and meaner for dealing with bandits out in the wasteland. You can play a number of gambling games that can net you some extra cash, and you can pick up some side quests off the job board which cover any number of odd jobs in the wasteland that put extra cash in your pocket. Sometimes you'll walk past someone in town who will look at you and request some help in return for cash, a recipe, or racing certificates. You can do any of these. You can do all of these, or you can stick to the main quests as much as possible and rely solely on whatever experience and cash you get out of that. But first things first. The mayor gives you a heads up that walking around in your ARC suit could attract the attention of the authority. You know, those dystopian bastards who everyone is afraid of. Remember them? So he tells you gotta get a new set of duds before he'll even consider helping you out. Heading over to Outfitters, which is basically the supply shop in town, you're given one of 3 options for a new set of armor: Wastelander, Roughneck, or Fabricator. Think of it as a soft class choice you're making. Wastelander makes it so you get discounts on cash purchases in stores. Roughneck makes it so you have extra armor for protection and take less damage in general. And Fabricator lets you enhance the gadgets that you build throughout the game with the crafting system. Me, I went with Roughneck, because I'm playing the game on hard difficulty and I have vague memories of how tough this shit can get. I want that armor boost as much as possible. As you progress through the game, you'll open up options to upgrade your armor, which will cost a pretty penny, but is well worth it when you can afford to do so. We gotta go back to the mayor to report in, and he tells us that we gotta go talk to Mick, the local mechanic, about storing our vehicle. Mick's garage is basically where we'll find our buggy anytime we want to head out into the wasteland and do some driving. So once we've gotten formalities out of the way, we need to go talk to the sheriff about taking those supplies back to Hagar. You know, for those supplies he requested. Remember those? Okay, so the sheriff takes one look at us and says there's no way he's letting us out into the wasteland with supplies unless we put some weapons on our buggy. So he tells us to go talk to Rusty, the vehicle outfitter, and buy some guns. Okay, fine. So we go talk to Rusty, and Rusty says he only takes racing certificates as payment for vehicle upgrades and parts, and the only way to get certificates is to win some races. So he says we have to go talk to Jackie Weeks about getting registered in the speedway. Okay, Fine. So we go talk to Jackie Weeks, and then he tells us that if we want in, we have to talk to Slim, his employee who handles vehicle registration. And then, hold on. You're telling me that the sheriff told me to go to Rusty, and Rusty told me to go see Jackie Weeks, and Jackie Weeks told me to go see Slim? I talked to 4 people just to get to a point where I can start the process of getting guns on my car, which I need in order to then continue along the path of getting supplies back to Hagar? Holy Jesus tits, kids. I'm flabbergasted. This is just like what happened with the Outriggers, getting bounced from person to person like a pinball playing telephone, and this continues throughout the rest of the game. You'll want to start up a quest, but you have to talk to someone, who will then tell you need to go talk to someone else, who will either pass you further along or give you the quest you need. So you can then go back along the daisy chain and talk to everyone involved all over again to confirm that you've done things, all to accomplish one fucking task. And then this is all just to bottleneck us into learning the ropes on the racetrack. Racing is pretty simple shit and is divided up into a couple different formats. First off, you've got time trials, which basically let you qualify to race. You've got straightforward races, which are as advertised. You've got rocket races, which is racing, but you can use rockets on your enemies and they can use rockets on you, like a post-apocalyptic Mario Kart. And you've got the rocket rally, which fucking sucks, and is essentially you going up against a group of other racers all driving back and forth across a wide arena, hitting checkpoints while shooting rockets at each other for points. I like the regular races and the rocket races. They're fine, probably the most fun out of the options, but rocket rally is just awful. It's so stressful and frantic, and while you're trying to hit checkpoints, other racers are trying to hit checkpoints too. It was the only racing mode that gave me trouble enough that after multiple tries at placing top 3 for one of them, I settled for a second place finish and never tried it again. Driving in this game gets really old really fast, which is a deep shame because about 50 to 55% of the gameplay involves driving in some fashion or another. You'll be driving to get to a destination, driving in combat, driving in races, driving in exploration. And since you can't upgrade your vehicle without racing certificates to purchase new armor or weapons or modify your vehicle outside of stocking up on ammunition, you're going to be doing a lot of fucking racing. Kids, not gonna lie here, I do love a good auto race. My dad raised me on NASCAR, and while I look back on that and cringe a little bit, it did fill me with an admiration for and desire to watch cars drive as fast as possible against each other. And I love racing games too, from street racing to stock car racing. But fuck me, the driving in this game gets so old so fucking fast. And when you have a game that is 50-55% driving and it gets old fast, that is a huge fucking problem with the game. Driving controls are really easy. WASD to control the car, spacebar for a handbrake turn so you can whip around on a dime, shift key for your boost to drive real fast for a short time, and mouse keys for weaponry. Moving the mouse around does nothing because you can't control the camera while in the car, so you can only look ahead, meaning whatever direction you're driving, that's the direction you're looking in. Once you get weapons installed on your buggy, you get 2 of them, a machine gun and a rocket launcher. Eventually, you'll upgrade from a buggy to a Caprino, and from the Caprino to a Monarch. And the Monarch has a 3rd weapon, but we'll talk about that one when we get to it because that's endgame shit. You'll also have quick items that can be used while driving through the wasteland or racing, from armor repair to shields that make you temporarily invulnerable to shockwaves and other neat shit for survival. For now, what matters is that we finally won enough races to buy weapons for our buggy. The sheriff is satisfied, and we're out onto the wasteland to deliver the goods. With weapons installed, driving the wasteland adds a little extra tactic for earning cash, which is taking out bandits on the road. Whenever you enter a different territory, you'll get a notification that there's a number of bandits in the area that you need to take out. Taking them all out nets you a nice bag of cash that you collect from the local bartender, Sally, who pays well for each set of bandits you take out on the road because her shipments and interests depend on bandits not taking out her supplies. What's neat about these specific encounters is that whenever you clear the last bandit car on your list, the game goes into a really fucking cool slow motion sequence, and most times you'll see the bandit vehicle explode in a super satisfying Matrix-style bullet time. Even late into the game, for as dreary and boring as the driving eventually gets, those slow-mo moments of chaos feel real sweet each time. You'll also find some other distractions out on the road, like authority drones that hover in place just off of small jumps that you can boost off of and destroy with your car. And sometimes feltrite meteors fall from the sky, and you have a short amount of time to collect them all so you can get feltrite ingredients, which are used in armor-piercing ammunition. There's also a side job that I didn't even bother doing because it was boring when I first played this game a decade ago, and I just couldn't bring myself to do it again this time around. And that's delivering mail. Oh yes, kids! You can play Mailman in an id Software first-person shooter, and the goal is to deliver the mail across 2 or 3 stops on the wasteland in a certain amount of time. And if that sounds boring as fuck, let me tell you, it really fucking is. Okay, so Hagar has his supplies now. He's happy enough that he gives me his crossbow to use, which now means I've got 5 weapons to cycle through. Pistol, shotgun, assault rifle, sniper rifle, crossbow. I can only carry 4 at a time, so that means that I have to pick which 4 I'm gonna roll with, and if I ever need to swap that out, I can go to my inventory screen and assign it. I haven't talked about the assault rifle yet, even though I've been using it. It feels wildly inaccurate even when aiming down the sights, but it chews through enemies well enough that it stays in your inventory all the way to the end. There are upgrades for it that decrease bullet spread and weapon swing, and I got those pretty early on since I had a fat stack of cash. And the crossbow is really interesting. The ammo types for it come in really handy. Steel-tipped bolts, electro bolts, dynamite bolts, and mind control bolts. Mind control bolts don't come in till much later in the game, but you basically hit an enemy with one, take over their body for a short time, and then they explode from the strain, which also damages nearby enemies. Fun! Am I making sense with all of this? Does any of this sound fun? And the more I talk about this, the more I write about it, the more I break down the mechanics, the more I examine all of this and explain it all, and the more asinine and boring this game appears. It feels like a comedy of errors, you know? Like, this game that got made is a comedy of fucking errors where people just go and do things. None of it is interconnected at first or even often, but it's just, oh fuck, I haven't even talked about the mini games in this fucking... No, I have too fucking much to talk about in this goddamn... Alright, so back to the mayor after delivering the supplies, and of course, he's got another job for me. It involves making a run deep into the wasteland to investigate some bandits doing digging in a crater for feltrite. This sounds easy enough, and maybe even a little fun to boot, so I head over to the sheriff to see what he has to say about it. But the sheriff won't let me go that deep into the wasteland in my buggy, because it'll get torn up real quick by the hardcore bandits out that way, so I need to get to my second car, the Caprino, which means I need to go to Jackie fucking Weeks again to register to win a Caprino. But I can't get into that specific race without a fucking racing sponsor. Jackie tells me I need to drive out into the wasteland to talk to some fuck named J.K. Styles who runs Mutant Bash TV, because if I can get him to sponsor me, I can run the race no problem. Fine. Meanwhile, check out this moment where I get Jackie's attention. I didn't realize I had my microphone on, so I caught my reaction to this perfectly.
68 sponsored event is now open. Always our local favorite.
Are you looking for a better set of wheels?
Oh my god, this game is fucking broken. Alright, out into the wasteland, kill some bandits for money, and I pull up to Mutant Bash headquarters where I get to converse with JK Styles to talk about sponsorship. But the thing is that JK here directs, produces, and streams a popular TV show called Mutant Bash, which involves a lone gunman going through a series of arenas against waves of mutants, killing them all, and emerging alive on the other end. If I want sponsorship, I need to run through Mutant Bash and prove my worth. Mutant Bash consists of 5 separate waves with different themes, including one round in the middle, which is a modified version of slots that can either net me extra cash or send more mutants my way. Make it through all of the waves, and I get to face the first new mutant enemy type in the game so far, the Tentacle Mutant, which headbutts and reaches out with its tentacle arm and covers my screen in slime whenever I'm attacked. He's no joke and doesn't go down easily, but neither do I, and I walk out with a sponsorship letter. JK lets me know on the way out that if I come back at some point, he'll have more waves set up and I can make more money, and to be honest, I never went back because the idea of driving across the wasteland just to participate in a TV show for cash, when I'm honestly picking it up pretty easily on my own, just wasn't fucking appealing at all. That's a lot of this game. Drive way out of your way to go potentially do a thing that will get you cash and shit and advance the game, and then make your way all the way back to town. So anytime I can skip that step, I'm doing so. Okay, drive back, sponsorship, buggy race, win the race, get the Caprino. Sheriff says, okay, you can head out to where I need you to head out. I head out, kill some bandits, drop off some supplies, head back to town, get money from Sally for killing bandits, engage in some cards, engage in some 5-finger fillet, pick up a couple side quests, report to the sheriff. Sheriff asks me to take out some bandits who have been using RC cars strapped with explosives to take out honest citizens of the wasteland, engage in some hollow dice, and then head back out into the wasteland. Jesus, Jesus, this is This is kind of a lot all at once. Now, if you kids decide to partake in this masterpiece, I would like to warn you ahead of time that if you're going to drive out into the wasteland, do yourself a favor and make sure you have a couple of quests loaded and ready to go before you do. Because there's nothing more tedious or annoying or frustrating than going way deep into the wasteland for one thing, driving all the way back to Wellspring to turn in that quest, and then go right back out for just one thing. This time out, I knock a few things off my to-do list, including the crater job that the mayor told me about, which I didn't realize wasn't connected to the sheriff, so I've just been running around doing side stuff for the last hour or two, and that's, fine. The sheriff jobs aren't actually side quests, though. They're more like secondary main quests, so I'm at least moving the so-called plot along. I'd like to point out that right now the plot basically consists of me just doing jobs and proving to people that I'm chill and deserve a spot at the table here in Wellspring. There's no real story actually happening. There's nothing motivating me towards continuing to play through the story. There's just a collection of events that keep happening, and I keep getting asked to do things. There's an easy way to make this kind of narrative work, the emerging from the underground bunker after 100+ years of cryosleep narrative. And that is to give the main character motivation to keep going. Fallout 4 did it well by having you emerge from the vault on a search for your kidnapped son. Most open world games do have a story that might be middling or silly or sometimes gravely serious, but they have a story. They work on the concept that you are playing a character in a wide open world and you can proceed at your own pace, stopping to do whatever you want in the sandbox you're presented with. Or you can stick to the story, do whatever you want. Rage doesn't have that option. Its story, or whatever passes for it, is basically the sandbox. It's running around aimlessly getting jobs from people and doing the bidding of others while not having the agency to go and pursue your own desires. Because your character doesn't have a story. He doesn't have a name or a designation or a personality. He just exists as a piece of a game where that piece gets to be moved by you, the player, when and where the game tells you to move it. Not because any of this is interesting, but because there has to be some kind of a point, right? There's a point to this, right? God Christ, I might start drinking while I'm doing this. I might just... Alright, so these fucking bandits with their RC cars. I get to their place, I make my way inside, and this mission involves a lot of explosives and a lot of explosions. At first, the whole thing feels like standard operating procedure. I need to go through, kill dudes who are in my way. Thankfully, they don't have foreign accents this time, thank Christ. And in specific places, I need to either build or find an exploding RC car, drop it, control it, and detonate it when near explosive stockpiles. Which, you know what? Now that I write that out, it kind of sounds like the sheriff sent me on a sort of suicide mission. I'm not really sure I'm okay with that. The bandits here are pretty tough. Some of them are decked out in light armor, which can be problematic during firefights, but on the plus side, I managed to locate my next weapon, the Authority machine gun, which has a sweet scope on it and sometimes feels like it does a touch more damage than the assault rifle, but it clears through a magazine a hell of a lot faster. I would like to again point out that I have yet to see, meet, or even confirm the existence of said Authority, but now I'm running around with one of their weapons. Like, shouldn't I have killed one of them or met one of them in order to get this gun? Shouldn't I need to stop asking questions. So many things just aren't making sense. In what is actually a genuinely tense sequence of events, as I explode the last stockpile of dynamite, the whole bunker starts to collapse, which means I need to get the hell out as the whole place starts shuddering from a cascade of explosions all around. There's an elevator to take upwards to the surface as shit goes to shit, and bandits try to stop you from leaving because if they're gonna die, you might as well die with them. It's a touch on the, oh, where the hell was all of this before type of situation. But you know what? It made me sit up straight and pay real close attention for a few minutes, and in this game, I'll take what I can get. Anyways, I head back to Wellspring and turn in all my quests and shit and reap the benefits of my rewards. The sheriff pats me on the back and tells me to catch up with the mayor and go do shit for him now. And the mayor's all excited about the feltrite sample I found out in the crater, but he's no scientist and he doesn't know shit from Shinola, so he tasks me with, you fucking guessed it, driving back out into the wasteland and dropping off the feltrite with some scientist named Dr. Cavassier, which every single fucking time I hear his name, I just hear Cavassier, which then in turn makes me think of I am an old man, kids, and us old men remember things from times past that you kids would do well to recognize as classics. So, first I run a couple races to upgrade my Caprino, run a couple job board missions for extra scratch, including one mission where I have to go back down into the RC Bandits hideout, so I guess all of those bunker collapsing explosions weren't as dire as they seemed, and kill some bandits on the road, and drive way the hell out to Cavassier's place to drop off the feltrite. Cavassier is one of the few characters in the game who get any kind of personality, and it's actually kind of nice to interact with him. See, pretty much every other character in the game has some kind of quirk or trait that makes them stand stand out slightly against the rest of the cast of characters here in the game, but otherwise they're all drier than dry toast in a dry desert with a heaping helping of saltines on the side. Kvasir, meanwhile, has excellent animations, understated and effective voice acting, and implications that he's seen a lot and done a lot, not all of which was on the ethical up and up. So when he tells us certain information, it actually comes across as something to listen to, as opposed to someone just delivering another, "Oh man, the authority sucks, man, you don't want to run into them," kind of line. He's also the first one to drop hints about a group of people who are fighting against the authority, who call themselves the Resistance. And you know what? The tropes just keep on coming and coming, don't they, kids? Kvasir takes the Feltrite and says it'll take him a bit to examine it, but in the meanwhile, while we wait, we can go on another mission. This one personal, to kill some time. Kvasir recognizes us as an ARC survivor and knows how to upgrade our defibrillator so we get 2 charges instead of just 1, which is absolutely baller, because that one single charge takes forever to recharge after you use it, and the bandits out here are starting to get a little bit more deadly with each passing mission. The only downside to this is that the new defib is in a hospital in the middle of an old abandoned city, one crawling with mutants, so it'll be real difficult to get to. Kvasir used to work at said hospital where they did some allegedly unethical experimentation, and warns us that it'll be a rough ride to get there. Of course, at this point in the game, everything just kind of sucks, so I figured it'll just be a matter of something else sucking for a little bit until something else sucks some more, right? This mission is so good, it's getting its own section of the video. Dead City is, hands down, the best section of this entire game. Not only is it the best section of the entire game, but later on, when you come back and run through the city again, this time in reverse, it's the best section of the entire game again. Dead City is literally as advertised, a massive, collapsed downtown area that has been abandoned for a long time and is now crawling with mutants and dripping with meat and slime. It's nothing but mutants as far as the eye can see, and you can't see very far during most of the mission because it's tight corridors and darkened hallways and atmosphere. When it does open up, that is not a good thing because it usually means you're exposed and swarms of mutants are going to come flooding in your direction. Dead City is tightly paced, plotted, and executed with such fine precision that I don't understand how this is part of the same game I've been playing for 4.5 hours now. As you enter Dead City, there's rumbling from above combined with guttural growling to imply that there's something really big moving around, and throughout the mission you'll get the briefest glimpses of said big nasty. Between those moments, we'll have to make our way through the wreckage and endure moments like being trapped in a barricaded room while mutants slowly figure out how to get in and at you, except we're not sure which door they'll come through, or if they'll come through the floor or the ceiling. I'm trying really hard not to oversell this, kids. I remembered Dead City from playing a decade ago, but that didn't prepare me for how effective this whole mission is. Both times you go through Dead City, it is tense and full of dread, and mutants can literally come at you from anywhere as you try to figure out which way to go or which doors to open. We get introduced to the slime mutants here. Mutants whose bodies are swollen with slime-filled sacs that you basically need to pop with your bullets in order to affect them. And the more you pop, the more crazed and flailing they get, which is really not good for you. If they hit you, your screen is covered in slime for a moment and it does a fair bit of damage, so be fucking careful. Oh, and here's another id Software reference, which I almost didn't catch because I was picking things up so quickly. I had to go back and look at the footage to see what it was because when I picked up the box of pinkies, it made a growling noise. See, I just can't fucking understand how this mission is so good while the rest of the game is so fucking boring. Like, why couldn't the game have just been this? Go to an abandoned city, fight mutants, get out, go somewhere else, do the same thing. Oh yeah, we finally get to meet our big ugly friend who we've been following this whole time. A giant mutant with cybernetic parts who looks tough, sounds tough, and hits really hard. Fortunately, we're given a motherfucking rocket launcher right before he pops up. Once you figure out how he telegraphs his attacks, he becomes fairly easy to deal with. Watch for his laser pointer to aim where his fists are going to go. If he grabs a chunk of building to throw at you, shoot him in the chest real quick. It's not the worst boss fight ever, but it's effective. See, when this game chooses to stop, drop, and focus, it strangely has the ability to get really good, but it only does so like 2 or 3 times throughout the course of the 15 odd hours of gameplay. Taking the defibrillator means an ambush from mutants and... Are you fucking kidding me? Look at this. Look at this! He avoided my shotgun blast! This is what I'm talking about with the enemy AI and animations and bullshit, because just when you least expect it, they fucking parkour some shit, and you miss, and you're standing there like, how the fuck did that happen? And then they plow into you. Holy shit, that moment was scary as fuck. But once we clear the ambush, we're outside, we're out of the city, and it's back to Kvasir. Whew, kids, Jesus, even just rewatching the footage of that bit so I can write about this is exhausting. I would play the shit out of a game that just did that over and over again. Somehow Rage felt the need to focus on more cars than it did navigating crumbling environments while surviving mutant ambushes. And, like, I genuinely don't understand why. Like, I know id Software likes to innovate, but this game is such a hard departure from their first-person shooter resume that it feels like someone else entirely made this game. I know that Doom 3 and Quake 4 were more story-driven and focused on talking heads just as much as it focused on headshots, but this game... Hang on. I don't want to taint this section of the video with that. Let's just get... Okay, Kvasir installs our defib and informs us that the Feltrite sample is just some kind of new explosive accelerant, which could really suck for everyone if the bandits, or the authority, or whoever got their hands on it and started using it for the wrong reasons. So it's back across the wasteland with a quick stop to take care of a side quest, clearing out those British bandits again.
I could go for a smoke.
That is not what you said earlier, mate.
You're a cigarette.
And then finally back to Wellspring to turn the Feltrite in to the mayor. But as the mayor and I finish business, an alarm starts going off that the mayor kindly asks me to check out. And the Wellmaster asks me to drop down into Wellspring's well and stop a group of bandits trying to drop poison in the water's town supply.
Somebody's poisoned the water hole!
All right. Take the toxin back to the Wellmaster, who asks me to...
Old man Kvasir should see it. Maybe he can figure out what it is.
He asks me to go...
Old man Kvasir should see it.
all the way back to Kvasir? I was just out there! Fuck!
I know what you're up to with the Resistance. Be careful, though. You can't trust everyone in town.
Wait, what am I up to with the Resistance? I haven't talked to anyone in the Resistance. I just found out that they exist. I'm not doing anything with the Resistance. Back to the wasteland, kill more bandits, talk to Kvasir. He examines the toxin and goes, oh hey, this is nasty shit, let me try to weaponize it. And it turns out the toxin was just the right ingredient he needed to make mind control darts for the crossbow. Remember that? So now he wants me to take the darts to a woman named Elizabeth, all the way back at Wellspring, who is a member of the Resistance, and now I'm suddenly helping the Resistance. I had to drive all the way out to Kvasir to drop off a thing, and drive all the way back to Wellspring to drop off a thing. God, this game sometimes. So I find Elizabeth in the bar, where she's been sitting the whole time in a nice little touch of continuity, and she's like, the bar isn't safe, we can't talk out here about the Resistance, and goes into a secret back room that literally everyone can see. Like the goddamn card player is staring right at us as we go into the back. Anyway, Elizabeth is like, we're with the Resistance and we need your help. Our leader, Captain Marshall, has been captured and is in a prison and we need you to break him out. Don't forget the mind control darts. Great. Remember how I mentioned that the mind control darts let you control someone for a short time until they literally explode? And the Resistance is like, go forth and utilize them. Who are the bad guys here? Again, is it me? Am I the bad guy?
Are we the baddies?
Kill bandits, make a cool jump, arrive at the authority outpost. Now, mind you, despite how this looks, this is not an actual authority building. This is an outpost that has been built around a pre-existing prison from the past, so keep that in mind for later, kids. Inside the prison, we get introduced to the authority and their technology. Now, fighting the authority is real simple. Some of them just have armor, some of them have energy shields that you can whittle down, and some of them have heavy armor and pulse cannons. Feltrite rounds for both the assault rifle and the authority machine gun are what's going to take them out the quickest. But at this point, we've also got EMP grenades, which can zap them and deplete their shields. EMP grenades can also take out authority power generators, which you're going to want to do for two reasons. Number one, the generators power security fields, so you can't get past them unless you take out the generators. And number two, the generators power shield recharge stations, so the shield soldiers can run over and recharge their shields in the middle of combat, which is bad for you because those shields soak up ammo like nothing else in the game. Okay, so going through the prison is fairly easygoing stuff. Fight some authority, take out a generator, proceed to the next area, rinse, recycle, repeat. Once you get to Captain Marshall's cell, we get to...
I take it Elizabeth sent you. I'm sure glad to see you.
Oh, hey there, acclaimed voice actor Stephen Bloom. Haven't seen you since Quake 4. What's up? Once you get to Captain Marshall's cell, we get to play defense and keep him safe from incoming authority while he disables security, which doesn't go so well, and so we need to make our way across the courtyard, ducking and dashing from cover to cover while tagging authority along the way. Fighting the authority is so much more straightforward than fighting any of the other bandits, probably because the authority maintain strict military tactics and move in squads and shout orders at each other like an elite Rainbow Six unit. But you know what they don't really fare too well against? Shotguns, pulse ammo. All the kick of buckshot with the effect of an EMP. One shot, one kill. Ugh, fucking love this shotgun. Me and the captain get separated due to plot purposes, and we both make our separate ways back to Wellspring and to the secret resistance backroom meeting place. Meanwhile, Wellspring now has authority bots zooming around the town, scanning faces, trying to track down who this ARC survivor is that's been giving them trouble. Marshall tells us that there's a data drive back at the ARC we emerged from, which can help the resistance track down the location of other ARCs, and even decipher the codes necessary to activate them and let out more ARC survivors. Which is great for us, but also very bad if the authority gets their hands on it, because then they'll assimilate more ARC tech to fuel their empiric desires. Since the data drive uses a genetic ID to operate, that means it's up to us to go out and get it. Time is of the essence, so I go run a few more races first so I can upgrade my Caprino some more. What? I'm trying to get it out of the way so I don't have to think about this shit anymore. And when I finally hit the wasteland, Elizabeth contacts me over the radio 3 times.
Listen, our contact back at base is reporting authority movement in the area. We don't know what's going on, but be careful. We're getting reports of authority movement in the area. Watch yourself. The authority is up to something. Large transport carriers have been seen north of here. Don't waste any time getting that data.
Jesus, woman, I think I fucking get it. Lo and behold, the authority are there. Who would have thought? So, I fight my way in, I get the drive, I fight my way out, drive back across the wasteland, pick up some Feltrite, kill some bandits. This is beyond repetitive now. This is just the amount of driving and killing other cars for cash and stopping to do one simple thing and then get back in the car to drive somewhere doesn't feel fun. It just feels like I'm just running errands. I've already got kids. I do grocery runs and get gas, and I sell things for money, and I don't want to do that in a game. I don't want to feel like I'm just playing a simulated version of real life. I want to shoot things in a simulated power fantasy and feel like I'm accomplishing something of my own accord. You know what? Fuck it. Oh, fuck. Yeah, I'm drinking through the rest of this. Oh, goddamn. Captain Marshall suspects the authority is trying to control mutants using nanotraits. What my blood is filled with. Remember that? So I get to, thank Christ, I get to go back to Dead City and find some kind of evidence that this is going on. This time we're going through Dead City backwards, starting where we finished and slowly making our way through to where we started the map the first time we were here. It's very clever because it organically does callbacks to the best mission of the game, reminding you of how horrific it was, keeps you on edge the entire time, and adds in authority to fight here and there for good measure. It's just as tense as the first time with just enough changes to keep it fresh. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Once we get what we got, it's driving again, killing bandits, talking to Sally to get money for killing bandits, and Captain Marshall lets us know that it's a little too hot for the resistance to stay in Wellspring any longer. We have to get the hell out of Dodge, so to speak. And if there's anything here that we want to accomplish or try out, now's the fucking time. But to be honest, I'm so over doing the job board here. I'm so over doing all of these races. I'm so over being in this town and doing the exact same things over and over and over again. Honestly, fuck this place. Everyone here was just using me for their own ends, and I had no characterization or motivation to do anything else. At least with the resistance, I've got a motivation, which is not letting the authority get to me and not letting them get to other arcs. That being said, let's get the hell out of here and let's get to Subway Town. After a scenic cinematic with Marshall in the driver's seat of a dirigible taxi that is oddly very similar to the scene where we rode in Hagar's car at the beginning of the game, we arrive in Subway Town, which sure as hell ain't Wellspring, but we'll get to that in a moment. First, we're introduced to the Resistance, which is fucking as tropey as it fucking gets around here. We've got the stoic Captain Leader Soldier, the female medical doctor, the big brain tech head whose legs don't work, the muscle-bound weapons expert who literally wears ammunition as a part of his fucking outfit. Oh god, there's not enough whiskey for this. And then there's Saul, the easygoing mechanic dude. How did I get wrapped up in all of this nonsense. Like, I just, who wrote this shit? Anyways, Subway Town sure as hell ain't Wellspring, and it shows. First off, the whole town is way more difficult to navigate. There's an upper level, a middle level, and a lower level. We've got a whole new cast of characters to discover and introduce ourselves to. But rather than doing anything different, we're about to go do the exact same things we did back in Wellspring. We've got the town leader, the guy who runs the racetrack, the bartender who pays us for each bandit we kill in the wasteland, the foreman. It's the exact same thing, just slightly different, a little more dingy, a little more gross. So like, why did we need to switch locations in order to proceed through the game? I'm legitimately curious about this. If Subway Town offers the exact same options as Wellspring, just with a different flavor and fervor, wouldn't it have made sense to leave Wellspring as the single hub town for the remainder of the game? Because now I have an all new cast of characters to meet, with the same mini games to play and find, shops to shop in, and I'm literally switching gears mid-game to get used to this scenery just because the game felt it was necessary? It's also weird because the game literally gives me tutorials for all the mini games all over again, even though I've been playing them in Wellspring, so it's not like I don't know what I'm doing. We're also in a completely different part of the wasteland, out further east, so it brings new scenery there as well, but also the same exact things to do. Drive around and destroy bandit caravans and jump off of ramps to take out drones, and it's just... Once you see how long we're actually here, this seems like such an arbitrary shift as a way of padding out the game's length. Fine, let's just go figure things out here. Redstone, the so-called leader of Subway Town, walks a fine line between mobster and mayor, with ties to the authority and the bandits in the surrounding area, making sure that his town stays supplied and taken care of while he stays in power. From what I got out of the conversation, Redstone isn't aware of the resistance hanging out literally below Subway Town, but he also doesn't allow people to meander about Subway Town without his blessing. So, I need to go prove my worthiness to Redstone by helping Foreman Jones clear some mutants out of the subway tunnel he's been trying to work in. So here we go, kids. It's fucking drive out into the wasteland, head down into the subway station, and kill some mutants. First, we drive outside and then... Wait, that's fucking it? Why did they even make me drive out here? I could have... Oh, God. Oh, fuck, why did I buy this label? Fortunately, while not as thrilling or as memorable as Dead City, the mutant subway mission is short, sweet, and chock full of mutant chaos, including a big arena fight where we have to face off against waves of mutants, both big and small, and it kinda slaps. Honestly, any section of the game where you gotta just tackle mutants is automatically good, because mutants are fast, frightening, and always tense to work with. Shotgunning these fuckers never, ever gets old. Anyways, now that the foreman is satisfied, Redstone gives me another mission to go on in order to continue finding favor with him. And wait, why the fuck am I spending so much time just trying to make this guy happy again? Just because the Resistance has their headquarters here and they don't want Redstone sniffing around? But if they don't want Redstone sniffing around, then how do they get around town? I'm so confused. I really just want to do story stuff, but I'm back to doing odd jobs for no goddamn reason. Redstone wants me to go bust into the vault of the Gearheads, who are the dudes responsible for maintaining electricity for the town, and steal some experimental plutonium feltrite, so yada yada yada. At this point in the game, I'm starting to accept that there isn't anything actually interesting happening. It's just a series of actions that the game requires me to complete so that it can maintain the illusion of actual progress while hiding the fact that what little plot and story there is would probably take up only about 3 or 4 hours of gameplay, if that. I also meet up with a distiller named Dietrich, whose distillery has been overrun by mutants, and if I can get him a couple of jugs of his good stuff, he'll pay me handsomely. Okay, fine, dude. First off, I head into Gearhead territory, who are a bunch of Russians in baseball gear for armor, and I... No, okay, no. wait, kids, wait, I'm sorry, I swear. What the fuck? Engineer Russians dressed up in catcher uniforms and metal helmets who build little fucking spider drones made out of gears who control all the electricity in the surrounding area like some kind of fucking steampunk Russian mafia. Oh my god. Oh my god, kids, I'm writing this and I'm saying these words out loud, and I think the game is just fucking with me at this point. Oh my god, how does this exist? How am I playing this game? What the fuck? Oh, fuck. All of these guys are well armored and tough as nails, which makes this whole mission a long fucking slog that requires steady use of rockets, grenades, and armor-piercing rounds. And there are a lot of these guys. A whole fucking lot of them. But I get the plutonium, which turns out to be useless, and I get it back to Redstone. Surprise, he's not happy about this, because if the gearheads suspect that Redstone sent me in to get the plutonium, that's bad news for Redstone. Which means that he's now sending me into the gearhead power plant to permanently redirect the power to Subway City and kill as many gearheads along the way as possible. Just straight up go in and kill a bunch of steampunk Russians for this fucking mobster and steal the electricity forever. And not only that, but I have to go do another mandatory race to win a brand new, twice as tough vehicle so I can cross the wasteland safely. I am so tired of being forced to run races. Now we have the Monarch, which is a fine little car, tough as nails, and it has the previously mentioned third vehicle weapon, the pulse cannon, which is really neat because it will one-shot any and every vehicle you come across, so long as they don't have their shields activated. I hit up Dietrich's distillery on my way to the power station and fend off more waves of mutants and quietly dream of a game that was just stuff like this. Just surviving waves of mutants in broken down environments, slowly picking my way across the wasteland towards some kind of sanctuary city with the hope that I could make a new life in this strange, dead world. As soon as I start fucking shit up at the power station, the Gearhead's boss starts yelling things at me from the overhead speakers, all kinds of big talk about how if I move too deep into the plant, then there's gonna be no room for negotiating, how he's gonna make sure his boys take me out, how I've crossed a line, etc., etc. And you know what? I don't blame the guy. From his perspective, they've been running their electricity business for however long they've been doing it, and they've been successful and profitable. And now some subway town mobster is greedy for all the power and has sent some kind of one-man army to throw everything out of proportion. And to be honest, yeah, I would be a little pissed off about that myself. Everything in here is about what you'd expect based on our last encounter with the Gearheads. Mechanical traps to deactivate, little mech drones that constantly drop in and cause havoc on me, a bunch of bullet spongy, armored up Russians who are tough as nails. This whole section is a long slog, kids. A really long, draining slog. I die more than a few times here. Those 2 defib charges really aren't enough, and I'm slow on the bandage uses. But I finally get to the elevator to head up to the boss man, and he traps me in the elevator and drops me like a 5-year-old dropping mommy's phone. So now I have to make my way back up all over again until I finally get to the big man himself with his pop rockets and his catcher's outfit, and I put him down hard. But wait, there's still more. I've diverted the power to Subway Town, but now I have to defend Redstone's men who have shown up to give me backup. They're ensuring the new reroute can't be undone, so I get to stand across from the catwalk and play tower defense, in that I need to activate a series of traps for the Gearheads to walk into as the subway men do their thing, and eventually, voila, we are done. This sequence was long, frustrating, and ugly. I say ugly not for the environment or for the enemies, but because this whole mission was straight up criminal enterprise at work, and was all in the name of making sure the resistance didn't get kicked out of Subway Town by a mobster. All the other bandit clans so far have at least been violent towards settlers in some way or another, but this? The Gearheads had just raised their prices a little bit, and Redstone didn't want to pay anymore, so I straight up just stole and killed all of them like a hired hitman. Imagine if Mad Max was trying to do his thing to liberate people from the Citadel, but then teamed up with Immortan Joe to go kill a rival city just for resources. This is honestly not a good look. It's not a good mission, and it absolutely runs counter to whatever the Resistance is trying to do. We're supposed to be trying to stop the Authority, not helping establish a mobster into an authoritarian-like position. No, not yet. Not time yet. Back at Subway Town, it seems that Redstone has gotten himself in trouble with the Authority, who are giving him a stern talking to and won't let me in to see him. So I go chit-chat with Marshall and the crew to update them instead. In what's probably the closest thing to a story mission in a couple of hours now, Lassard, the Resistance tech guy, tells me he needs one more ARC data drive in order to set up what he's been working on, so they can locate the remaining ARCs and revive everyone. They've heard that an ARC emerged out in a valley run by the bandits called the Jackals, which means I need to get back in the car and drive out and see if I can break into that ARC. At this point, there's still a few things I can still go and do on the side. There's a job board flashing at me, the racetrack will let me upgrade my Monarch a little bit more, and there's a dirigible taxi that can take me back to Wellspring if I want to go check off any boxes over there that I never got around to. I I'm tired now. I've been running missions and side jobs for everyone else for literally hours in-game, and after that shitty job against the gearheads, I'm not interested in doing any more jobs for cash, for influence, or anything otherwise. I want to get that arc drive, and I want to get to the end of this mess. Jackal Canyon is a wild shitstorm, not quite on par with fighting mutants, but they are vicious and feral and communicate in grunts and groans and shouts at each other. Jackals are mean sons of bitches, and their base surrounding the emerged arc has some really fun verticality built into it. We have to make our way slowly down the canyon floor, which we are currently very high above, and the Jackals do not make that shit easy. Honestly, out of all the bandit clans in the game, they're my favorites. They've got zip lines, they've got bombs strapped to balloons, they jump and leap and roll almost just like mutants. They're wild and unpredictable and fall into the wasteland enemy category of, why haven't I just been fighting more of these guys all the time? There's no time to fight fancy here, kids. We gotta pray, spray, and drop the hammer with extreme prejudice. I raid the Lost Ark, ride a fun little ski lift most of the way back up, and before you know it, we're back in the Monarch and headed to Subway Town. Alright kids, here's where I'm going to drop pretenses. I very, very clearly remembered what happens next in the game from the first time I played this. And at this point, it dawned on me what was going to happen next, and I was really, really unhappy with it. I was actually hoping that I remembered this next mission wrong, but I knew I didn't. So, just so we're all clear on this, I went into this next mission knowing what was coming, and absolutely dreading it. Get back to the Resistance, give Lassard the drive. Marshall's like, sweet, we all know where all the arcs are now, but we need to go destroy the Authority blockade, and then we need to get to Capital Prime so we can revive the arcs using their antenna system. So I'm back in the Monarch, I run through the blockade and lower all of their gates, drive back to Subway Town, and Portman, the weapons expert, he gives me an Authority pulse cannon, a combination between a chain gun, plasma rifle, and a BFG. Oh, you heard right, kids. The pulse cannon's alternate ammo is BFG rounds. Marshall gives me the "this is what we've been waiting to do for years" speech and tells me I need to get inside Capital Prime, use their antenna, and raise the remaining arcs so that we can recruit them all and take out the Authority once and for all after that. There's also something about some experiments the Authority have been running that no one else has seen before that I might run into inside Capital Prime. But, as he says, the future of mankind rests on me. I hit the road, knowing that my Monarch isn't upgraded enough to tackle multiple Authority buggies at the same time, but I don't give a shit at this point. I'm not running any more races just to try and get enough certificates so that I can have better armor. I know what's coming, and I know it doesn't matter anyway. I take a few deaths while trying to wriggle around the defenses of Capital Prime, but I finally luck out between shield usage and pulse cannon shots to get into Capital Prime and start the mission. Marshall warned me ahead of time that no one's ever entered Capital Prime and come back alive, but I've got a fucking pulse cannon in my hands which mows through Authority armor like tinfoil, and there's plenty of ammo lying around everywhere. Right now, I'm a merchant of death, and I'm looking to make change. About halfway through, I run into the Authority experiments that Marshall hinted at, cybernetically enhanced mutants. They move like mutants and they fight like mutants, but a single wing stick or shotgun blast won't take them down in one hit anymore. No, these bastards are tougher than that, but not so tough that the pulse cannon can't turn them into ragdolls. Now, don't worry kids, I'm not gonna let you down and not show you the BFG rounds. You think I'd do that to you? Come on, it's me, your dad. I'm the one who makes sure you get to see the cool shit. But the thing with the BFG rounds is that they don't just fire and forget. Oh no, you have to charge these shots until they're strong enough to fire. And there's some ups and downs to this. First off, the pulse cannon doesn't swap ammo types very quickly, so if you try to do that, you'll be a sitting duck for at least 2, maybe 3 seconds. Then the charge up on the BFG rounds is another 2, maybe 3 full seconds. So if you're in the heat of combat and you decide to go BFG on their asses, you better have at least 6 seconds to your name, so you're not getting ganked from all angles while you try to just do something cool. And the worst part, the heavy armor Authority dudes take 2 BFG rounds, and they're continually dumping pulse cannon ammo into your body while you're charging shots. So no, the BFG is absolutely not worth it, and that is absolutely fucking criminal. Alright, let's not drag this out any further. You have to slowly make your way to the top of the antenna structure and then activate 3 relays one at a time. While each one is being prepped, you get attacked by waves of cyber mutants, so you have to hold them off while you wait for the relay to charge up, activate it, and then move on to the next one. This is it, kids. This is the last stand. This is the final battle. There's no epic boss. There's no crazy series of heavy armor soldiers who are bearing down hard on your position. It's just a bunch of fucking cyber mutants, one after the other, and they crumble under the pulse cannon's might. Once the last relay is in position, you activate it and... Not yet. Not yet. A cinematic plays. A satellite in orbit picks up the signal we've just sent from Capital Prime and bounces it back down to Earth to all the remaining arcs that are hidden underground, and one by one they emerge from the depths of the Earth, triumphantly ready to give those survivors a new life. And the game just ends. Yes. Now. Oh, fuck. Just to make sure you kids got that last bit, I had to fight waves of cyber mutants for a grand total of 3 minutes as the relays got into place one by one, and the cinematic plays and the game is fucking over, and that's it. Done. So yeah, all of that bullshit that Marshall was talking about at the end there, about how we're about to build an army and then take it to the Authority and change the world for the future of humanity, maybe in some other game, but not here. Here we get an anticlimactic final mission inside the capital of an enemy who we've barely fought up till now, whose base we hadn't seen before now, whose buggies we hadn't seen before till now. And we just get to roll in with an overpowered pulse cannon, mow everything down, raise the arcs, and then that's it. Game over. Everything's over. The whole thing is just fucking over. While some fucking indie country post-apocalyptic rock song plays like this game was some kind of wild and fucking crazy experience, and fuck you, Tom Willits. What the fuck even was that? What the fuck was this experience, this fucking nonsensical game that just had to play with fuck. Kids, I don't even know where to begin to encapsulate all of this. I know that there's a responsibility on my part to present material to you, to talk to you kids about these games that have come out in the past, and to try and convey what they meant at the time, and what they mean now, how they felt to play back then, and how it feels to play now, to try and offer, I don't know, to try and offer a historical insight on these first-person shooters, which, without them, we would not have the games that we have today. There are influences on the genre that came from the masters. There are games that were lucky one-hit wonders, and there are games that were little more than cash grabs on the rising popularity of a genre that was burgeoning with talent and imagination otherwise. In many ways, in fact, I would say in every single way, Rage is id's Daikatana. Rage and Daikatana exist on the opposite sides of the same coin. One was a game built of passion for design, but without the restraint of knowing when to back off and sharpen focus and gameplay and polish it up, resulting in what is genuinely a good game that became inaccessible because of the hype and the rocky launch. The other is a game built not of passion, but of a desire to make a successful game. To cram it so full of objectives and details and minigames to make it feel like it was more enjoyable than it really was. To make something so inoffensively palatable for a wide audience that it failed to be something enjoyable for really any audience. But it was just enough of a hit that it didn't fail. One could argue that Rage couldn't fail. How could it? It was an id Software game, a brand new IP with a brand new id Tech engine, with competent gunplay and competent car driving and competent minigames. But competency does not equal fun. The ending of this game, after everything that we've been asked to do before it, is an insult and is personally offensive to me as a gamer. It was offensive to me when I first played this game, and it is offensive now. It displays just how empty this game is, how vapid and how utterly and clearly lacking it is. Playing Rage is like playing WarioWare, but all of the minigames just suck. It is boring, it is toothless, and then when you add in the fact there are a couple of truly brilliant sequences hidden beneath the dusty veneer of this game, both Dead City missions and the Subway Town Mutant mission, those briefly brilliant moments just highlight the vapidity and mediocrity of the rest of this experience. There is no story. The story is told in the novelization. That's right. Our character's name, he has a name. Remember that? Our character's name is Nicholas Rain, and it turns out he was a Marine before being cryo-frozen in the Ark. We only know this because of the tie-in novel, which Matthew J. Costello, the man who wrote the script for this godforsaken game, also wrote. And you know what? That makes this all doubly insulting, knowing that there was an identity behind our character, that there was a history, but we, the player, did not know that. It was never shown or told to us. And why? Was it so that we would want to read the novel or the comic book tie-in published by Dark Horse Comics to learn more about a world that is so empty and strange and hostile to us, the gamer, in order to make us pay more money for tie-ins that would explain the mess of a story we experienced in-game? Kids, this is a goddamn mess. I took us all step by step to try and illuminate that, so should you choose to play this empty, hollow vessel, you'll at least understand what you're in for. There was a lot of side quests and jobs and races that I didn't do because, frankly, I was tired of feeling like I was being forced into situations that I didn't want to be in, that I had no motivation to be in. I was tired of feeling like the only thing I could do was just play the game, just for the sake of playing the game. I wanted to find some meaning to move forward, some motivation for continuing to wander out into the wasteland and come back and get another job and do it all over again. And you know what? At the end of the day, there just isn't any reason. There isn't any reason whatsoever. Rage is a competent game filled with brief, brilliant moments of genius that are smothered by blankets of mediocrity. It does nothing to earn your money, your attention, or your time. And what's worse, this game kept Tom Willits in a position of studio power to continue making more games while it ended up being the last one that John Carmack worked on while it id. Yeah, that's right. John Carmack ended up leaving the studio in 2013 to pursue an opportunity at Oculus VR because he felt that id Software wasn't moving in the direction he wanted to, which honestly was to pursue more VR projects. So if that doesn't sum up this game perfectly, I'm really not sure what will. Rage gets a 5 out of 10. Now, at this point, I am a little drunk and a little angry, and you kids don't deserve all that being levied in your direction, even inadvertently. So I'm gonna go head out to the garage and sober up a little bit before I come back here and talk some more. Because we're not quite done with this saga. Oh no. No, kids, there's still some more rage left in this series because Tom Willits kept this franchise afloat just long enough to produce a sequel. One that, up until now, I haven't actually played. So it's time for Dad to sober up, saddle up, and head back into the wasteland to see if Rage 2 can deliver on the promises of the first Rage, or to see if it's just gonna be more frustration. Stay hydrated, remember not to drink and drive, and I'll see you soon, kids.